Ever feel like you're climbing a ladder that's leaning against the wrong wall? You're not alone. A recent Gallup poll found that over 60% of professionals feel disengaged at work, despite doing everything right: the degree, the job title, the dream house. Yet, deep inside, a quiet question lingers: whose definition of success am I really living? As automation reshapes industries and traditional careers blend with gig work, the old roadmap to fulfillment is no longer reliable. If you've sensed there's more to life than ticking boxes, you're beginning to question the default path. "The mass of men lead lives of quiet desperation," wrote Henry David Thoreau, a statement that still echoes today. Experts like author and coach Lewis Howes emphasize that success without alignment breeds burnout. In a world where we're nudged toward status symbols over self-awareness, many are waking up. They're not abandoning responsibility, they're redefining it. By daring to question the system, these individuals shift the narrative, from chasing milestones to building lives that feel truly meaningful. Think of it like escaping a well-worn treadmill and stepping onto an open trail. You lose the speed, but gain direction. Instead of a rigid 5-year plan, you experiment with life prototypes: small, low-risk decisions that reveal what feels right. It's like tasting new dishes before committing to the full meal. This journey isn't without uncertainty, but that's where magic lives. Each step becomes an act of design, and your life begins to reflect who you are, not just what you've been told to pursue. So, what if the real risk is sticking to what no longer fits? If applause no longer satisfies, if climbing feels more like drifting, maybe it's time to recalibrate. Ask yourself, am I succeeding by society's standards, or thriving by my own? This isn't about rebellion, it's about realignment. It's a shift from ambition to authenticity, from achievement to aliveness. The question is not what you're leaving behind, but what you're stepping into. Now's your chance to chart a path that's truly yours. Start small. Journal what excites you. Explore new projects on the side. Talk to people who've dared to pivot. Because when you prioritize meaning over momentum, the world opens up. Why following the default life path is failing us, and what to do instead. About the author. Paul Millerd is a writer, podcast host, and former corporate consultant who stepped away from the conventional career ladder to embrace what he calls the pathless path. Through his popular weekly newsletter, Pathless by Paul Millerd, he offers fresh perspectives on redefining work and living with intention. In his second book, Good Work, Paul delves into how we can stay purpose-driven and ambitious while navigating a life that honors our individuality and values over traditional success markers. Key Takeaway 1. Why the default life path is failing you, and what to do instead. What if the career script you've followed your entire life is now outdated? Picture this: a high-achieving college grad lands their dream job, only to be laid off within a year. Or a seasoned executive retires after decades of loyalty, but instead of fulfillment, feels invisible and adrift. These aren't isolated cases. According to a 2023 McKinsey report, over 40% of workers globally are re-evaluating their career paths. The once stable roadmap, work hard, climb the ladder, retire comfortably, no longer guarantees the security or satisfaction it once promised. The default path, once a gold standard, now feels more like a crumbling relic. As Socrates wisely noted, the unexamined life is not worth living. Yet most of us follow pre-written scripts without stopping to question them. Paul Millerd, former consultant turned author of The Pathless Path, explores this exact dilemma. The modern economy, with its automation waves and gig-based shifts, has unraveled traditional notions of success. What was once a predictable climb now resembles a shaky tightrope. From recent grads to late career professionals, many silently ask, is this truly the life I was meant to live? The pull of the familiar is powerful. Societal rewards, like promotions, pay bumps, and social validation, keep us orbiting the same trajectory. But here's the paradox: when we can envision alternatives, we confuse the visible for the viable. Imagine trying to break free from gravity without even knowing rockets exist. The real danger isn't failure, it's staying asleep in a life that doesn't excite you. So, ask yourself, whose goals are you really chasing? For most, awakening comes either through disruption or wonder. A layoff, a health scare, or losing a loved one can jolt us into awareness. But sometimes, inspiration comes quietly, through a passion project, a long hike, or hearing someone's story from outside the norm. In those moments, we realize, life isn't a one-size-fits-all template, it's a canvas waiting for your brush. As poet Mary Oliver once asked, what is it you plan to do with your one wild and precious life? Rewriting your path won't be tidy, but it will be true. You might earn less before you earn differently. Loved ones may not understand. But many who veer off the beaten path report something money can't buy: alignment. Time expands. Curiosity returns. Life regains color. The goal isn't a perfect plan, it's an intentional one. So if you're feeling the cracks in your old story, take heart. The page is turning. And the next chapter? That one's yours to write. Key takeaway 2. Stop waiting for the perfect job, start prototyping a life you love. Ever found yourself fantasizing that the next job will finally make work feel worthwhile? You're not alone. Millions believe that a new desk or a better boss will breathe life into their 9 to 5. But what if the solution isn't switching companies, but switching perspectives? According to career reinvention expert Paul Millerd, the path to professional fulfillment lies not in a dramatic leap, but in building a living draft of your life, one low-risk experiment at a time. Rather than waiting for clarity to strike, what if you created it through motion? Historically, we've worshipped the narrative of sudden transformation, the consultant turned chef, the coder turned writer. But real reinvention rarely follows a neat arc. In reality, Millerd writes, change is iteration, not reinvention. Think pop-up stalls, weekend freelancing, or short sabbaticals, not quitting cold turkey. These are your career prototypes, little test flights that shrink fear and let curiosity lead. Just like a scientist testing hypotheses, you don't need certainty, you need a lab. Still, your brain may resist. It compares the known discomfort of your current job with the uncertainty of the unknown. That's when numbing routines kick in: binge watching, doom scrolling, Sunday night shopping sprees. But here's a thought-provoking question: what's the true cost of staying stuck in a role that drains your spirit? Often, the hidden tax of inaction is greater than the visible risks of change. Fear screams louder, but freedom whispers persistently. No one reinvents in isolation. That's why it's critical to find what Millerd calls path experts, those brave enough to try alternatives and kind enough to share. Their stories serve as lanterns, turning foggy ambitions into feasible steps. When you surround yourself with people who value experimentation over perfection, community replaces competition. Instead of chasing titles, you start building trust. Instead of career envy, you find collaboration. Ultimately, the goal isn't to eliminate fear, it's to walk beside it while exploring a path of your own design. Let go of the myth that change must be grand, instant, or polished. Instead, embrace small prototypes, adjust your internal compass, and lean on those a few steps ahead. The journey might be uncertain, but it leads somewhere far more meaningful, a life that feels authentically and undeniably yours. Key takeaway 3. The pathless path: escape the default life and design one that's truly yours. Have you ever sprinted towards society's milestones, promotion, mortgage, retirement, only to pause and ask, whose race am I running? You're not alone. The once reliable road to success, college, corporate ladder, comfortable retirement, feels increasingly outdated. Automation has blurred job security, gig work has fractured career identity, and the promise of stability now feels like a moving target. If trading your job title doesn't light you up anymore, you're probably sensing a deeper truth: life is too vast for one default script. Ancient wisdom reminds us, the only true wisdom is in knowing you know nothing. This echoes Paul Millard's radical notion, the pathless path, a journey shaped not by preset goals but by internal alignment. Unlike the traditional route built on ambition and applause, this new direction favors curiosity, freedom, and self-direction. As Millerd writes, the illusion of certainty often shatters with a single event, a layoff, a health scare, or a brush with awe. These shakeups are often disguised invitations to ask, what if success was defined by aliveness, not achievement? To explore this terrain, think like an inventor, not a job seeker. Millerd encourages living drafts over rigid life plans, tiny career prototypes that test new possibilities without burning bridges. It might be a weekend passion project, a freelance gig after hours, or even a test-run sabbatical. Just like in a startup lab, experiments reduce fear and offer unexpected clarity. Instead of chasing one polished leap, you iterate your way forward. Each small move becomes data, Millerd notes. And data, unlike dreams, builds confidence. Of course, your brain will rebel. It clings to old comforts, scrolling, shopping, or Sunday dread disguised as routine. But the real question is this: what's the true cost of staying stuck in a story that's not yours? Progress on the pathless path often looks like wandering, yet each detour becomes an asset. You stop worrying about catching up and start tuning in, guided not by external trophies but your inner compass. Competition fades. Community rises. Vulnerability becomes your passport to connection and creativity. So what now? Don't wait for life to hand you permission. Instead, take one step, however small, toward a direction that feels alive. Seek out others walking the uncharted road. Try. Fail. Adjust. Learn. This isn't about being fearless, it's about being curious enough to explore. Because when you start seeing the default path as optional, the entire world opens up. And the most meaningful life. It's often the one you draw as you walk it. Key takeaway 4. Choosing the pathless path, a journey to a life that feels fully alive. There's a rare stillness that arrives the moment you step off the default path. It's not loud or dramatic, but quiet, like a clearing in the woods after a storm. And in that silence, new questions start to emerge. Why am I trading hours for paychecks? What does a life that feels truly alive look like? These aren't distractions, they're invitations. Follow them, and you begin tracing your own storyline instead of living someone else's script. This is the beginning of what Paul Millerd calls the pathless path, a deeply personal, often unconventional journey driven by alignment, not approval. Clues often come in the form of joy, the community where you feel seen, the passion that devours your Saturdays, or the cause that stirs a deeper purpose. Don't dismiss these sparks, they're signals. As Millerd suggests, the pathless path isn't about being alone in the wilderness, it's about choosing intentionally over inertia. Surround yourself with trusted companions and path experts who can witness your unfolding without needing it to fit a tidy box. These relationships act as stabilizers when old habits try to drag you back into the familiar. But this road isn't without detours. Distractions like likes, followers, and flashy success metrics will attempt to hijack your focus. In these moments, return to your inner compass, the one calibrated by values, not vanity. Purposeful progress doesn't come from chasing applause but from deep engagement with the work and wonder that matter most. Millerd urges us to choose crafts, causes, or projects that demand presence. Even a modest effort, an essay, a melody, a local event, can illuminate the path ahead and confirm whether to move forward or pivot. The fuel here isn't certainty, it's faith, a trust in yourself, in your curiosity, and in the unseen opportunities waiting just beyond the known. This isn't blind optimism, but a commitment to move, even when you don't see the whole map. Ask anyone who's walked the pathless path and you'll hear about a quiet knowing, intuition, spirit, or gut, that nudged them to keep going. That's the magic of this journey. It's not that you know exactly where you're going, but that you believe the act of going will show you. So if you're still waiting for someone to say it's okay to step off the grid, this is it. Permission granted. Pack your questions, text a friend, and take one brave, small step. With that, the road will begin drawing itself beneath your feet. And the story you were meant to live? It will finally start speaking through you. In summary, have you ever chased the next job title, paycheck, or praise, only to pause and wonder, whose dream am I really chasing? In The Pathless Path, Paul Millerd challenges the societal script we've long been handed: go to school, get a stable job, climb the corporate ladder, retire quietly. But as the world changes and our inner needs evolve, many find that traditional success feels strangely hollow. Millerd invites us to reconsider this default path and instead explore a more personal, uncertain, but ultimately fulfilling way of living, one guided by curiosity, creativity, and courage. At its heart, this book is a bold redefinition of success. Rather than measuring life by titles, salaries, or social approval, Millerd urges us to tune into alignment, joy, and aliveness. The pathless path he describes isn't mapped out or handed down, it's drawn in real time by the choices we make. It's not about dropping everything overnight, but about testing new directions through small, low-risk experiments, like side gigs, sabbaticals, or weekend projects. These micro-moves shrink fear and amplify clarity, revealing hidden doorways we may have overlooked. One of Millard's most powerful insights is that reinvention isn't glamorous, it's messy, awkward, and full of dead ends. But when we treat our lives as living drafts instead of polished resumes, we free ourselves from perfectionism. Mistakes become feedback. False starts become redirections. This shift in mindset transforms failure from something to avoid into something to learn from. In this way, progress becomes less about climbing and more about exploring. Still, our minds resist. The brain clings to familiar discomfort rather than facing the uncertainty of change. We numb with routines and distractions, convincing ourselves that the known is safer. Millerd offers a gentle counter: perhaps the true risk isn't stepping into the unknown, but staying stuck in a life that doesn't feel alive. When we reframe our fear, we can begin to see discomfort as the doorway to growth. Importantly, Millard emphasizes that we don't walk this unconventional path alone. Path experts, those who veered off the beaten trail before us, can serve as mentors and mirrors. Their stories prove that alternatives exist and offer inspiration, guidance, and hope. Building a community of support, vulnerability, and shared exploration becomes not just helpful, but essential. As we forge new paths, we also begin to experience a profound rewiring of values. Community replaces competition. Authenticity outshines achievement. Instead of asking, "What's next?" we start asking, "What feels true?" Each step taken in alignment, even a small one, begins to yield its own kind of magic. Life slows down, joy becomes accessible in the present, and the chase gives way to deep, grounded living. Millard's Pathless Path also reminds us that creativity is not a luxury, it's our compass. Committing to a craft or cause, even for a season, generates momentum and meaning. It's through showing up for that essay, that melody, that neighborhood project, that the next steps become clear. Progress here is less like a ladder and more like a spiral, unfolding with every act of sincere effort and self-expression. In the end, the Pathless Path is less a roadmap and more an invitation to trust yourself, to let go of rigid definitions of success, and to walk alongside your curiosity. If you've been waiting for permission to choose a different life, this is it. So take that first brave step. Test something. Reach out. You don't need to have it all figured out to begin. Just begin. If this resonated with you, like, share, and subscribe to the channel to help someone else hear what they need today. Let's build a world where more people live with intention, purpose, and joy. And if no one told you lately, remember this: you are loved, you are worthy, and you are spectacularly capable of extraordinary things.